It's Song Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. We are so glad that you can join us here on Song Talk Radio. This, in case you didn't know, is the show where songwriters talk to other songwriters, hopefully, and the audience.
The talking to other songwriters generally happens.
That's true, where we share tips and tricks on how we can all get better at writing songs. And in this trip of betterment is my good friends, as always, Mr. Michael Proudfoot. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing quite well. I got my computer repaired so I can take part in this conversation. Very excited.
And of course, got Mr. Neil Modi in the house. How you doing, Neil?
Howdy, doing quite well. Thank you very much.
Very exciting. Don't forget that we really love to hear from you, the listener, so why not send us an email to feedback@songtalk.ca with your questions or your thoughts on the show or anything else. You know, your emails make us so happy, and we actually do read each and every one, and sometimes we even share them on the show.
Sometimes we read them twice.
That's true.
Sometimes we read them out loud.
So tonight we're talking about some modern R&B, and we're very excited to have our guest in the show. We're doing a slightly new process here, and it's going all terribly, terribly wrong.
Don't say that.
And we are, this is so embarrassing.
We're doing a shorter show, and so we're going to be much more concise and to the point, right, Phil?
That's true.
That's the idea.
Because tonight we're talking about some modern R&B sounds with Rosh Grove, an R&B singer and songwriter from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a dreamer, believer, and driven to be an achiever in success in the music industry. His music tells his story of perseverance and overcoming adversity regardless of circumstances. Thanks for being on the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Do you feel, Rosh, that you're a modern songwriter?
I definitely do. You know,
what does that mean to you?
To me, it means the sound of today and right now, because I look back at, you know, all the legends before me, and, you know, I appreciate everything that they've done and the groundwork that they've laid. And this is just me trying to take up the mantle and you know, become potentially a legend for, you know, future generations to come. So, you know, definitely I feel like I am representing the modern day R&B scene.
Excellent. Now, is it, besides from the songs or the way you make them is a more modern process, right? With beats, and can you talk a bit about how you make your music?
Oh, most definitely. So I am pretty much all on laptops and beat making software. The one that I use most prominently is FL Studios, or Fruity Loops, as people know. I also just recently acquired Logic Pro, so I'm kind of learning that, as well as utilizing Cubase and Adobe Audition. So a bunch of different softwares, you know, in just moving away from like actual instruments, at least for now.
And do you play actual instruments as well?
I do. So I have a basic understanding of the piano. Like, I play it by ear.
Okay.
And I know a little bit of notation on there and whatnot. And I actually am learning to play guitar.
Cool.
So I'm still at the beginner stage and whatnot, but you know, maybe within like a year or two, and I do a live show, you know, I'll be incorporating all of that into it.
Right. Yeah, because that was one of my questions to you, is do you perform your songs live? And if so, do you do backing beats, or what? How does that work?
You know, sometimes it's a combination of both. COVID-19 has kind of halted a lot of the plans and everything, as the whole world is understanding. But, you know, it's mainly because I do hip hop and R&B, mainly instrumentation and backing tracks and whatnot. But the thing I like to always bring to the forefront is, you know, having the main vocals, because, you know, that's what people want to hear, right? It's one thing to hear the record, but it's a whole another thing to be in a performance and to see somebody live. So that's something that I try to stay back from and you know, really do that on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are writing your songs, are you starting off with like loops and beats, and then coming up with melodic ideas, or do you come up with the melodic ideas first, or
the lyrics?
You know, it's It varies sometimes, but maybe like 80% of the time, it always starts with a melody. So my background in music, like I took music all through school and really had a love for, ballads and symphonies and whatnot. So it's always like hearing like one instrument, whether it might be a flute, a guitar, or a piano part. And then that kind of transitions into, okay, what sort of feeling does this melody evoke? And whether or not it's a more sad emotion or a more like energetic sort of tone, then that sort of transitions into what I want to say and starts formulating the song.
So you always marry those two things together? Like if it's a happy melody, do you write a happy lyric, or do you ever clash the two of them and write something that's opposite to the feeling?
I used to be always keeping them in the same lane, like so they always run parallel. But recently, with this recent album that I released called Weekdays, I was exploring, that juxtaposition. So on songs like Gotta Let Go, it has like a very upbeat, energetic kind of beat. But then when you listen to the lyrics, it's actually sort of a little bit more introspective, if that makes sense.
Yes.
What is the lyric writing process like? Are you coming up with like stock phrases, or is it like you have phrases that you kind of stick in and then sort them together, or you start like from the top to the bottom, or?
Most of the time, it's always from top to bottom, for me at least. I'm a weird songwriter. I always like to create.
If you're a songwriter, you're weird. That's all.
Yeah, that is true. I've accepted that. I love it. Yeah, no, for me, like I always like to think of a title because it kind of gives me a jump off point. So, titling the song kind of sets the tone of like where the song's going to go. And then I sort of write top to bottom. So when I'm formulating my beats, I always think of, okay, am I starting with the chorus and then verse, pre-chorus, verse, et cetera, et cetera. So it really kind of comes synonymously together when, I go to actually make a demo of it, because then I can kind of hear it out loud. And then that's when you kind of go back and say, okay, let me fix this part, or let me add this to the second chorus. And yeah, it becomes like a big jambalaya of greatness.
Yeah. Do you do all of it yourself, or do you work with other people? Do you have collaborators?
For the most part, it's mainly myself. I'd say about 99%. Nowadays, I work in a studio with two talented guys. Shout out to my boys Brian BC Cockett and Ashton Adams, who's one half KYNGS. So they kind of help me with the beat making process. So I might come in with a melody, and then I'll send it to Ashton, and Ashton will come up with drums, or he'll add on to the melody. And then Brian being a sound engineer, a very, very talented sound engineer, will kind of put everything together and then add things in, as he sees fit.
Yeah, it's got your songs of yours that I listen to have a really great sort of soundscape feel to them. They fill the room and I guess the room or your headphones, depending on how you're listening to it, which is really neat. And there's not just a specific instruments, but it's really the whole total of it. It weaves in and out. So it reminded me of a couple of other Toronto producer musicians, Noah Shabib and The Weeknd. And is that a Toronto sound, or what do you think?
I definitely think so. Drake and The Weeknd, shout out to those guys. They really, I feel, open the floodgates for all of us to come up, hip hop and R&B artists. Drake probably being the most successful one. No diss to The Weeknd. But I think that is definitely our sound. We have like a little bit of airiness and eerie and airiness to, laid back, sort of chilled out vibe kind of beats and whatnot. And it's perfect because it sets us apart from, the American artists out there, because they've been running the game like for years on end.
Yeah.
And now I feel that when people think of Toronto, they actually take us seriously, and they think like, oh, okay, there could be the next superstar coming out of here.
Yeah, there's certainly a smoother vibe to the Toronto sound than a lot of the American stuff. It's a little more edgy and aggressive, right? Like, you guys are a little more laid back.
I wanted to ask a question. I wanted to ask a question about the song structures, because like so much work, so much of songs are listened to online versus the radio. But there is still songs that get played on the radio. Are you sort of writing in terms of the structure about, if there's an intro for someone to talk over it, or do you go right into the tune, or how does that work?
So I've actually changed my style a bit in the last like year and a half or so, because I've wanted to really take this seriously and build my brand as, an R&B pop artist. So part of that was studying, what makes a radio hit. And then I realized that, a lot of radio hosts such as yourselves, will talk over the intro, will want that leading into the intro of the song. So it kind of taught me now, okay, when I'm going to make a pop song, start with like an 8-bar intro that's maybe silent or very subtle sounds in there, so that, it gives you guys the room to talk and introduce it to your audience. Also looking into the overall sound of what's on the radio, we have more energetic, sort of upbeat things that, are going to lift people's spirits. Every now and then, like, you'll have like an artist like Adele who can just, do whatever and everybody will play it.
Well, I think there is something to that, even when you're just talking about the story of a song or the energy map, or even just for a listener, because like Phil was saying, like a lot of stuff is streaming. There's no DJ talking over the intro. So how much of an intro do you really need, right? But what it does for the listener is it establishes the groove, it establishes the harmony, it puts the listener into a place before you start complicating things with lyrics and additional melodies and dropping into a really big chorus where a lot of stuff is going on. It's kind of a simple rule to start simple and then build up.
100%. I think it really depends also, just to add on to that, about what type of song are you making? Like, are you making a single versus something that's going to be on an album? Because I found, back in the day when I used to do, I was more hip hop focused. I used to do like crazy, like 2-minute intros, that led into like a really dope beat. Yeah. And I would think it was dope. And then everybody that's in my close circle would think like, yeah, it's cool. But, somebody who doesn't know you is going to play that and be like, it's taking too long, skip. Right.
Do you ascribe to the notion nowadays that everything's a single and there's no albums anymore?
You know what? I'm a little bit of a music hipster, so I still believe that there are albums out there, and you can tell, even with the most popular artists like Young Thug, even though most songs do sound similar, when you're hearing them in the context of an album, it makes sense. I think it depends on how deeply invested you are in that genre. That makes you understand that. But, definitely I think that the music industry is more moving towards, constantly having singles, constantly having hits. With the emergence of Spotify and Apple Music, it's created this thing where artists can constantly drop music now. So, I might drop an album like yesterday, but then by next week, people are like, okay, well, what's next?
Yeah, that's really tough because, they don't do that with authors. If you write a book, you don't sort of say, oh, well, when's the book coming up next week? You're just going, like 4 years.
Give you a couple of
and certainly it's true. I mean, and it used to be like back in the 70s on the radio, they would play the A side of an album from start to finish, kind of just because the DJ digged it and it's cool, right? Yeah. But the last 30 years, 40 years, and especially on Spotify, the algorithm-driven playlists, like there's no 2 songs from the same album. It's a complete mix of stuff, right?
But some hip hop artists release mixtapes, which are to be consumed whole, right? And that's kind of like an album. So
speaking of songs,
there's still a long format that's available.
Yes.
But before we get to the song, I just wanted to ask you. So you're new R&B / hip hop. What's the connection? Where does it? Where do the two connect?
R&B and hip hop. I think it's just in the raw emotion, right? Like, R&B nowadays is a little bit more upfront, and artists are talking about more about where they're from and what they're feeling in the day, and like how things in their environment affect them. Hip hop was always kind of like that, in my opinion. You had guys that were really bringing you into their world and showing you like a different side. A lot of us are privileged to live sheltered lives where we might not be exposed to, poverty or just things of the struggle, right? So I think that's where R&B and hip hop are starting to come together, and it's really working nice now, where you see like a hip hop artist and R&B artist can make a whole album together with, like, for example, Big Sean and Jhené Aiko. They did a really great job there. And then you're seeing how The Weeknd is sort of considered to be a hip hop icon, even though he's technically R&B pop.
Yeah, because he doesn't, rhyme. He he sings.
Yeah,
but
he doesn't rap.
But and this, he doesn't rap.
He doesn't, it's interesting. I would
but
never
there's
thought
certain
hip-hop
production elements or beats. Like now, there's kind of hip hop beats, but there's singing and kind of new R&B over that too, right?
Yeah, and a lot of hip hop artists are becoming like that now, right? Like, you got Kevin Gates and NBA YoungBoy that sing pretty much. They're still rapping, but hip hop has become this like sing-songy kind of thing, especially what you see with Travis Scott, what he's doing. But every now and then, when you listen to an album of theirs, that's when you'll hear those tracks where they're actually like rapping, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now I know what you are.
When you're writing songs, Rosh, are you aware of these things, and are you bringing that to the conscious part of your mind when you're writing, or do you just write songs and this is what I feel like, and whatever box someone wants to put it in, they can put it in whatever box. I don't care.
It's a little mix of both, because I started as a rapper, and that was my thing, back in the day when I was like 16, 17, just starting this out. And then I realized my passion for singing, and I never really knew how to mesh the two because I always considered them to be separate. It wasn't until an early friend of mine, who went by the name of Chubb Rock at the time, told me that, you can do this singing so well. One of my early childhood best friends, like Quincy, had always told me that, I think you're good at rapping, but the singing is where you are. Like, that's what you do. That's great. So because I have this love for rap and this like appreciation for R&B, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to combine the two. And if I feel that verse 2 on this song needs a rap, then that's what I'm going to do.
Well, it's good because, lots of people can sing, but actually rapping is really hard to do well. It's one of those things that it's like a lot of people think, oh, you just talk. It's not that way at all.
Yeah, people who don't like rap go, oh, it's just that. And you go, no, there's a lot to it.
Well, what's interesting is I thought is rap is, in some ways, is where all the really interesting musical boundaries are being pushed, because rock's kind of gone through so many different revolutions, and
it's not too much new in rock music.
Yeah, where they were doing like, you have all these sort of these really complicated rhythms on top of other rhythms. It's really fascinating stuff. But we should get to a song, because time is going by. So
we're going to play what, Gotta Let Go?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this? Anything we should listen for, or where did it come from? Just set it up for us, man.
For sure. Gotta Let Go is a classic. Should definitely win a Grammy here. No, in all seriousness though, it's one of those songs that's kind of like a modern day love song in a sense. So it talks about unrequited love from the opposite end. So it's really the person who's singing it that's saying that they gotta let go of this love affair that they have with this person because they're just not ready for it. Right. And, trying to be as honest as possible and, but staying true to who you are. It was a song that I really enjoyed writing because I felt that it really represents how a lot of, I guess, everyone feels these days, but specifically people in the dating scene, because we have so many different things on social media that are taking our attention that, we find that we start relationships, but then maybe move on really quickly. So, how I sat there and said, okay, well, what kind of song can I write for that person that needs to say, I gotta let go. I gotta go. So,
and did this start off with the loops or the melody, or?
This one started with the melody. So the whole beat was produced by myself and in a co-production by BC Cockett. So it really just started with the piano that you'll hear right at the beginning in the intro. And then it transitioned all to the chorus. Like I sat on the chorus for a long time until I think maybe the day before my session. I was like, okay, now I'm inspired. It's like it happens sometimes. I'm sure you guys will know, right? You're like, oh my god,
deadlines are a good thing.
You don't want to rush it, right?
So it's a chorus. Well, it's a D, and then
and it goes something like this.
Yeah,
well, let's listen to it. Let's take a listen.
All right, here we go.
I said I gotta learn to let go of it, 'cause I'm not tryna fall in love yet. Gotta learn to let go of it, 'cause I'm not tryna fall in love. Gotta learn to let go, 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 yeah. I've been ready for a long time, got my life on track with a strong mind. Taking care of the both sides, but fucked up making moves in the wrong grind. I know we got a good thing, but it's hard 'cause it played so many games. And I ain't tryna throw any shade, but you know if you've been through pain, you want someone really nice, one who'll treat you right, making love all through the night, all through the night, all through the night. And I know I could be in time, be just what you like, yeah. I'm not tryna fall in love yet. Gotta learn to let go of it, 'cause I'm not tryna fall in love. Gotta learn to let go, 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 yeah. I'ma keep it real with you. I know I'm the only one who can deal with you. Got bands and build with you, and in time level up, finally heal with you. And I've been so lost in despair, chasing the hearts of the ones who don't care. I don't want you all caught up, no, I swear, no, 'cause that shit ain't never fair. You want someone really nice, one who'll treat you right, making love all through the night, all through the night, all through the night. And I know I could be a type, be just what you like, yeah. But right now I ain't living right, ain't living right, ain't living right. I said I gotta learn to let go of it, 'cause I'm not tryna fall in love yet. Gotta learn to let go of it, 'cause I'm not tryna fall in love. Gotta learn to let go, 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 yeah. Let go, 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 yeah. Let go, 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 yeah.
All right.
Great, very cool.
You know what I love about the song? There's, well, lots of stuff actually, but it doesn't have that boom boom snap, which everyone's doing right now.
Yeah.
Which I know there's a style, but you know, I've been listening to his old 80s stuff, and there's some stuff that was so hip at the time, but dates so much. And
Especially 80s stuff.
yeah, well, there's going to be stuff
Production,
now,
yeah.
but it was nice that it was actually like a real snare. I like
Oh,
that.
thank you. Thank you. That was something
One of
that
the things
really wanted
I
to
kind of
keep in.
liked about it, so sorry, was at the beginning, it sounds like the singer is saying he's got to learn to let go. But as it progresses, it sounds like you're telling the person on the other end of the relationship they've got to let go. And you get that feeling. But I was reading along to it, and I don't know where that change happens, but I do get that feeling that you're it's from the point of view of the singer, and then it changes to the person he's speaking to, which I thought was really cool.
Man, Michael, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I specifically tried to achieve that. And, hearing you say that, it makes me feel so good as a writer. So thank you.
Works.
Well, and it's got like and the chorus is really catchy, and it's catchy in a way, and it's rhythmically catchy, which is interesting because let go, you did some great things with some pauses on the line, which I thought were really tasty. Sometimes you don't need like a hook; you can just be
a bit.
Yeah, those
really, really
it's
tight.
those
Like,
little
that's so
things that
cool.
really kind of stick in your brain,
I wonder, is that part of being a rapper, now you're singing, but you still have syncopation and pauses, and because as a rapper, you don't have melody as much to play with. You just have rhythm, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and that was it. You know, I wanted to kind of just combine a bunch of different styles. Like my background is Jamaican. So, you know, even in reggae and dancehall, like, you know, they have that, like, I gotta learn to let go of it, like, you know, stuff like that. So I was like, let me, that's the whole vibe of even the, like, what the beat brings, right? So I was like, you know what, I gotta try to incorporate that somehow.
I love that. It's not stiff, it's very fluid, and sometimes I think some stuff can get a bit stiff, and it's got that kind of Jamaican flow, and Jamaican reggae is mine.
Yeah, I had a question about that too, but it sounds like we're running out of time. So Rosh, you gotta come back, okay? We gotta do another show with you, okay?
I would love to. That'd be honored.
Because I hear the band, and that means that's all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Rosh Grove. Thank you for stopping by, Rosh. How can people get more of your music?
You can find me on all social media at Rosh Grove and at roshgrove.com. Look forward to seeing y'all, and thank you so much.
All right, remember, listeners, we want to hear from you, so send us your comments on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. And also, why don't you check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, now that we is all kind of virtual-like. And subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider, iTunes and all them. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at songtalk.ca.
Sign up for diction lessons.
You can find links to all the podcast, books, and web services we mentioned here on Song Talk Radio on the resources page at the website, so please stop by there. And wherever you are in the world, you can stop by online via Zoom at the next Song Talk meetup on Sunday, September 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. Toronto time. Free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for all them juicy details. Also, a big thanks to Vanessa Vreeland for keeping us all on track and for her help behind the scenes here at the show. And most of all, we'd like to thank you, the home listener. You can follow Neil. You can follow Neil at
neilmodi.com.
You can follow Michael at
Instagram, Proudfoot420.
And you can follow me at VPhilHenry on Twitter.com. And stop by the website at songtalk.ca to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Stay safe, everyone, and keep on writing. Good night.
So long.